Welcome to my YouTube channel Wise Whispers, where silence speaks.
The room fell silent the moment the lights went out. Max, 65 years old, sat at the head of the long dining table, his wrinkled hands resting calmly on the polished wood. The faint hum of the projector filled the air like a warning, then her voice cut through the darkness. "Now everyone will know who you really are." It was sharp, cold, certain. Max didn't flinch. Across the room, his son Daniel shifted uncomfortably, avoiding eye contact. Guests, neighbors, relatives, even a few old friends, sat frozen, unsure whether they were witnessing a celebration or a public execution. And then the projector flickered to life. A blurry image appeared on the wall, Max's younger face. The beginning of a quiet life. Max had never been a man of many words. At 25, he had nothing, no inheritance, no wealthy family, just a pair of calloused hands and a promise to himself that one day, his family would never suffer. He worked double shifts. Slept little, ate less. When his wife Alina fell sick years later, Max didn't complain. He sold his only piece of land for her treatment. She survived, but something inside Max changed. He became quieter, stronger, invisible. A father who gave everything. Daniel was his only son. Max raised him with discipline, but also with sacrifice so deep that it often went unnoticed. He skipped meals so Daniel could have better food. He wore old clothes so Daniel could attend a good school. He worked through fevers, pain, and exhaustion, never asking for thanks, and he never got it because love, when silent, is often misunderstood. The daughter-in-law when Daniel married Sophia, Max hoped for warmth in the house again. Instead, something shifted. Sophia was charming on the surface, but her eyes often held judgment. She didn't like Max's simplicity, his old habits, his quiet presence. To her, he was embarrassing. Does he still live like this? She once whispered to Daniel, thinking Max couldn't hear. But he did, he always did. The planned dinner was supposed to be a celebration, Max's 65th birthday, at least that's what he had been told. But Sophia had other plans. She had spent weeks collecting evidence, old photos, documents, fragments of Max's past, things taken out of context, moments twisted into something darker. She wanted to expose him, humiliate him, break the image of the perfect father. Now with one click she believed she would. The first image on the wall appeared, a photograph of Max standing outside a small, broken house. Sophia's voice followed. "Look at this. The man you all respect so much used to live in poverty so extreme that he had to borrow money from everyone." Murmurs spread across the room. Max remained silent, because that wasn't the full story. The second Slide A document appeared, an old loan paper. "He was in debt for years," Sophia continued, her tone almost triumphant. "And he never told anyone how he paid it back." More whispers. Daniel looked confused now. "Dad, is this true?" Max finally looked up, his eyes met his son's. "Yes," he said calmly, and that was all. No defense, no explanation, just truth. The hidden truth. But what Sophia didn't show was the reason behind that debt. She didn't show the hospital bills, the nights Max spent sleeping on a chair beside Alina's bed. The moment doctors said, "We can save her, but it will cost everything." Max said, "Take it," without hesitation, without regret. The breaking point. The next slide appeared, a blurred image of Max arguing with a man. Sophia smirked. And here he is fighting in public. Such a respectable man, right? A few guests looked uncomfortable now. The room felt heavier, but then a voice spoke. "Stop." Was Max? It was Daniel. A son begins to see. Daniel stood up slowly, staring at the screen. "I remember this," he said. Sophia frowned. "What?" "That man, he cheated Dad, took money meant for Mom's treatment." The room went silent again, and Dad didn't fight him. Daniel continued, his voice shaking. "He begged him to return it." Sophia's confidence cracked, just slightly. Max lowered his gaze. He never wanted Daniel to know that part. The turning tide. The projector kept running. But now the images felt different, because the truth was starting to surface, not the one Sophia had prepared, but the one Max had lived. Max stood at the door. His hand rested lightly on the handle. Behind him, silence. But it wasn't empty anymore. It was filled with realization, with regret, with something fragile trying to become understanding. The moment of decision. "Dad." Daniel's voice was no longer confused. It was desperate, not the desperation of a child asking for something, but of a son afraid of losing what he had just finally understood. "Please, don't leave like this." Max closed his eyes for a brief second. For 65 years he had lived for others, for his wife, for his son, for the idea of family. But today, for the first time, he was being asked to stay, not because he gave everything, but because they finally saw it. Different kind of silence. Max slowly turned around. His eyes met Daniel's, then Alina's, and finally Sophia's. She stood there, trembling, no pride left, no anger, only guilt. "I was wrong," she said, her voice breaking. "I judged you without knowing you." Didn't interrupt. "I thought being strong meant exposing others," she continued. "But I see now. Real strength is what you've been carrying all your life." Rolled down her cheeks, and I disrespected it. Hardest forgiveness. Forgiveness is not a simple thing. It's not a switch. The door stood half open. A cool night breeze slipped into the room, brushing against the heavy silence left behind. Max stood there still, composed, one step away from leaving everything he had built over a lifetime. Behind him, the house trembled with emotion. "Dad, please." Daniel's voice broke again, weaker this time, not out of confusion, but out of fear. Fear of losing something he had only just begun to understand. The first step toward change. Max didn't turn immediately. He let the moment breathe, let the weight of his decisions settle, not just on himself, but on everyone watching. Why now? He asked quietly, still facing the door. Why do you see me now when I've been here all along? Daniel wiped his tears, struggling to stand straight. Because I was blind, he admitted. Not because you were invisible, but because I never tried to see. Slowly turned, his eyes met his son's, and this time there was no distance between them, only truth. A house full of regret. Alina stepped forward, her voice trembling. We built this home together, Max, she said. Brick by brick, sacrifice by sacrifice. Don't let one night destroy it. Looked at her, the woman for whom he had once given up everything without hesitation. It wasn't one night, he said gently. It was many small moments, ignored, dismissed, forgotten. The words weren't angry, they were honest. And honesty in that moment hurt more than anger ever could. Sophia's breaking point. Sophia, who had been silent until now, finally moved, slowly, carefully. As if every step carried the weight of her mistakes. She stopped a few feet away from Max. I was wrong, she said, her voice shaking. Not just about tonight, but about you. Didn't respond, so she continued. I judged you without knowing you. I saw your silence as weakness, your simplicity as failure. Her tears fell freely now, but it was strength, and I couldn't understand it because I never had it. The room felt her words not as an excuse, but as a confession, the hardest apology. Sophia lowered her gaze. I don't deserve your forgiveness, she said, but I'm asking for a chance to earn it. Max studied her face, not for perfection, but for sincerity, because apologies are easy, change is not. A decision of self-respect. Max stepped back into the room, not fully, but enough. I'm not leaving because I hate you, he said. I'm leaving because I finally respect myself. Those words echoed deeply. For years, he continued, I thought love meant Arabic ta, Arabic het, Arabic meme, Arabic lam, enduring everything, staying silent, accepting anything. He paused, but love without respect becomes pain. Lowered his head, Sophia closed her eyes, Alina held her breath. The condition. Max took a slow breath. I won't leave tonight, he said. A flicker of hope lit the room. Things cannot go back to the way they were. Listened carefully now. This house, this family needs truth, respect, effort. Looked directly at Daniel. You don't just inherit a house, you inherit responsibility. Nodded quickly, tears still in his eyes. I understand, Dad, I do now. Then turned to Sophia. Respect is not given to age, he said. It's given to character. She swallowed hard. I'll prove mine, she whispered. Rebuilding what was broken. Max walked back to his chair slowly, not as a defeated man, but as someone reclaiming his place. Daniel rushed forward and pulled the chair back for him. A small gesture, but this time, it meant something. Alina sat beside him, gently holding his hand. For the first time in years, Max didn't pull it away. A new beginning. The projector still glowed faintly in the background, but no one looked at it anymore, because the real story was no longer on the wall. It was in the room, in their actions, in their silence, in their willingness to change. One final truth. Max looked around the table, at the faces that once misunderstood him, and now finally saw him. I never needed the world to know who I was, he said softly. I just needed my family to care enough to find out. Moral of the story: respect should never come after humiliation. It should exist from the beginning. The quiet sacrifices of loved ones are often invisible, but they carry the deepest love. And sometimes it takes losing someone to finally see their true worth.